Rolling.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to another edition of the Friday Faceoff on WDFN.com and our sister station, the DRocks.com. It's Eric Chase, Matt Shepard.
You gotta tilt your head up a little bit because nobody can see you. They can't get to know you.
Let's get together. That's too close, Brandon. It's not April or late March in some cases, but it's opening day of college basketball. This is the first time I can remember where you got a bunch of big games all stacked up, actually all over the globe, all on ESPN. It's a little disappointing that it's not really a big TV night for Friday night, but there's some big matchups tonight.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, you got Florida and Georgetown, right? You got Kentucky and Maryland, obviously Michigan State, UConn. Those are fun games to monitor.
What time is that game locally?
Which one?
The Michigan State game.
5:30.
I'm sure all the Germans are up for that.
Well, who cares?
There'll be Americans on the base,
we will
right?
be. And I don't know how good Kevin Ollie, that's a new name, you're going to have to fill in for Jim Calhoun. Kevin Ollie's the new head coach at UConn. It'll be interesting to see how they do and how many people are going to follow them. They're not a preseason top 25, which doesn't mean a whole lot, but it is kind of a new identity for the Husky basketball program. So I think the name UConn still carries an awful lot of weight, but not as much from a team standpoint against MSU this year.
It's the beginning of college basketball season. We'll take that all the way through the beginning of April. It's the midseason for the most part of the NFL. The Lions, 4-4, finally back to 500, face the 5-4. The faltering, scuffling Vikings looking for a little revenge for their Week 4 last. That's Sunday at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, faltering, scuffling Vikings. Hard to figure out why, except for Christian Ponder. Christian Ponder in 2 of the last 3 games has not passed for more than 65 yards. This is an NFL quarterback now who played at a very high program at Florida State. Adrian Peterson's been unbelievable. Percy Harvin's been hurt as well. This team was playing over its head at the beginning. I expect Detroit to win. I don't know if it's win big because the Metrodome's a really tough place to win. It gets very loud there. But it's interesting who's in more desperate mode, Eric. A Minnesota club that if they lose goes to 5-5. If they lose, will have lost 5 of their previous 6 and squandered away the advantage they had over one of the teams, Detroit, that they played in the division, or a Detroit team that has finally reached 500, wants to reach the split the season series with Minnesota, and realize both these teams have huge games coming up after this. So it's hard to figure out who's in more of a desperate mode.
I would say the Lions. Every team expects to go to the playoffs, especially in the NFL where there's parity and things are really wide open. You got a Colts team that won last night that looks set to go win 9 games and maybe get into the playoffs. But a lot of us expected the Lions to be in the playoff hunt. It's a little surprising for the Vikings. And if I were the Vikings right now, the last thing I would be worried about is pushing. We got to win to get to the playoffs. No, let's correct our problems, and the playoffs could take care of themselves. With the Lions, it's like, okay, we climbed back. We've given ourselves an opportunity, and yeah, they know this is an important game because of who's coming up. And I looked at the schedule. I think you did as well. They could get 9 wins, and with the way the NFC is situated, the good teams are very good. You're probably not going to catch them. But 9 wins could very well get you in the playoffs because you got some really bad teams in the NFC.
And would scare some teams, too, if you met them in the postseason. I think you're right about that from the philosophy of what Minnesota is going to take. But I don't believe that because at the beginning of the season nobody expected them to be there, that things haven't changed for them. Expectations change. When you start 4-1, you expect then to be able to create and continue with that momentum. Your expectations... Minnesota's expectations were never, hey, we're not going to make the playoffs. Everybody feels like they're good enough to do that. In that room or in that organization, I think they're very disappointed right now. I think it's as big a game for Minnesota as it is Detroit because of the stumbles that they've recently had.
Yeah, and they got to fix Ponder. Ponder never blew me away. I was surprised he went as high as he did, but this is the NFL these days. Teams
reaching, right?
Teams will reach a little bit for a first-round quarterback, and since we're kind of going in this direction, and we'll get into it. And thank God we don't have to evaluate it for the Lions because they have their quarterback. But it's been interesting to watch the rise and the start of the Matt Barkleys, the Geno Smiths. Who do you like as far as college quarterbacks? And I'll give you mine, who I think could be the shiny new toy.
Well, here's the other guy who isn't getting a whole lot of pub right now, and it's just because his team is viewed as a defensive championship caliber squad. But A.J. McCarron has got the size, he's got the strength, he's got the smarts, but he just doesn't get a whole lot of love nationally. I can't say per se which quarterback I look at, Colin Klein, Matt Barkley, whomever. Matt Barkley appears to be the most NFL ready you would expect, but that doesn't mean that he'll be the best quarterback either, does it?
I'm talking about the one that catches a buzz during the combine and starts climbing up draft charts. McCarron's interesting. I've always looked at him as the don't screw it up kind of guy.
Yeah.
And he's taking that to a whole new level.
So are you going to say E.J. Manuel? Who are you going to say? Who are you going to blow us away with?
No, let me finish the McCarron thing. I think he's got 0 interceptions.
He does.
So that's perfection when it comes to not messing it up for your team. I like the other guy in his conference who has had some, pro eyes, pro scouts over the last couple of years. I like Aaron Murray a lot.
Yes. He's not a real big guy. He's 6'1". He's about 218 pounds. I like his grit. I like his toughness. I like he can make some big throws. I think one of those things, even though Drew Brees should have shot all down those perceptions of the how tall a quarterback is supposed to be, Aaron Murray might be one of those guys where people start questioning and say, I wonder if it's worthy of this high a draft pick because of his size.
Well, everybody gets pumped up for quarterbacks. Like you said, teams will reach. He's coming out of a program where Matthew Stafford was, so there's a little bit of pedigree there. He's been the starter since Stafford left. So he's got that Parcells rule where you got to win a certain amount of games.
You got to start a certain amount of games. Yeah,
it's helpful. So a lot's there. So if Aaron Murray wound up as like a top 10 pick, it wouldn't surprise me at all. But to me, there's a Luck every 10 years. There's an RG3 like every 5 years. I don't see any of those guys in this draft this year.
I would agree. I'm glad Detroit doesn't have to worry about that.
Thank God. And they've got that little receiver, too. He should be okay as well. The Friday Faceoff, we do it each and every Friday. Come back to WDFN.com. It's Eric Chase, Matt Shepard. We'll talk to you on our shows and next week on the web.